Hi, this is Grant from grantthomas.com, and I am back after nearly 6 months in a gap not doing these video blogs on electric cars and sustainability. So apologies for the gap, and thank you for all the comments and subscribers and those who've been asking about how it's been going with the electric car. So first of all, if you just stumbled across this blog, let me give you a bit of an introduction. So my name is Grant Thomas. I work actually for a living for IBM, and this year, and today is the 1st of January 2016, so Happy New Year if you're watching it today. This year I actually celebrate 20 years with Big Blue. I actually have nothing to do with electric cars, if you like, in my day job, but we do have part of the company that looks after infrastructure. So no part of this video is to do with work. It's really me just giving some perspective on my experiences driving electric cars, as well as making some sustainable choices for our family. We've been driving electric cars now for 3.5 years. This is the third, and I'm currently driving the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV, which is a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, and this is the GX4h that we took delivery in July. But I'll come on to that in a minute. Let me take you back then to the story of the electric cars. My first electric car, and you'll see the video, the very first video blog I did is out there on YouTube. It's inspired and helped a lot of you make those decisions moving to either plug-in or fully electric cars. That car was a Mk1 Nissan LEAF, which I nicknamed Bex because part of the number plate was BX, I can't remember now. That car went back to the leasing company. I had it 3 years. As a family, we drove, what was it, 35,000 miles in that. It went back to the leasing company in July, and I'm delighted to say, in a beautiful circle, the guy who sold me my current Nissan LEAF bought that from an auction company, bought that from an auction site. He now works in selling some used cars now for a company in Fareham. Anyway, long story short, he was able to buy the car and then sell it on to another new user, a new driver of Bex, and that new driver has been in touch. I think he's a retired electrical physicist or something like that. Apologies if I'm doing you a disservice. Delighted that he's got that car, and basically after watching all of these videos. So that was my first electric car. Brilliant car, but it was a bit of a gamble, because way back in 2012 there were less than 100 rapid chargers in the UK. That's places where you can plug in the car and recharge it from 0 to 80% in 20 minutes. So pretty important if you're trying to do a long journey. There are less than 100 of those in the UK. There are now over 1,600 rapid chargers based at 600 locations throughout the UK. Every single motorway service station now has a place where you can plug in and charge up a number of different electric cars from flat to 80% or more in 20 minutes. So that's very important if you're trying to make some long journeys in a purely electric car. Now, let me give you the full story. So the Mk1 Nissan LEAF went back on July the 31st this last year now, 2015, and that was my last video blog. Great car, never had a problem with it. One puncture, I think, and when the car went back after 35,000 miles, it still had one original tyre on there. A fantastic car. I loved it to pieces, and it changed my perspective on how we should be using cars and electric cars completely. And by the end of that 3-year lease, I know a lot of people are now driving electric cars. I was actually one of the first few hundred to take those vehicles in the UK. I forget what the figures are now. We have tens of thousands of electric cars and plug-in hybrid cars. That went back, and this car was the replacement. Now, earlier this year, we also as a family made the decision to get rid of our remaining internal combustion engine car. So way back in March 2015, last year, I actually took a personal lease, a PCP lease, on a brand new Nissan LEAF Tekna, which is their top of the range one, and I specified the 6.6 kilowatt charger. Always specify and choose and pay the extra to get the 6.6 kilowatt charger. I keep saying it on these videos. It's so important, it's so flexible, it costs a bit more money, and I believe Nissan are about to make it standard across the range on the next generation of car. It just means that you can plug it in at home, and in an hour you can pretty much recharge a third of your battery. So you can pull up with half your battery depleted, and within an hour you're back up to sort of 80%. You know, you're back on 30-40 miles of range in an hour, and that's more than most people do in a day. So it's a really important upgrade to specify on your car. So Mk2 Nissan LEAF Tekna in March this year, and I love it. It kind of fixed all the niggles that were in the Mk1 LEAF. So the heating system is brilliant. It uses a heat pump rather than the old convection heater that was in the Mk1. has the rapid charging, it's the Techno, so it's got the heated leather seats in the front, the heated leather seats in the back, the heated steering wheel as well. So you're not that, you know, I tend to not even use the heating in the car because frankly with all that, what you're sat on and what you're holding being warmed up, it makes it that much more comfortable. So that was the Mk1, no, the Mark II Leaf. Oh, and there's a BMW i3 on the other side of the road just coming the other way. And by the way, that would have been my car of choice rather than this one, but I'll come on to that. So for 6 months, from March to August last year in 2015, we actually had 2 Nissan Leafs. And that came with it's a conscious decision that for 6 months we were in a pair of cars that had a range of less than 100 miles. And we did have over the summer a number of weddings, family events to go to that were 120, 150 miles away from home. So that did require some planning. But one of the great things with the Nissan offering is when you buy a car, a Nissan Leaf from Nissan, you get, I forget what it is now, 2 weeks worth of ordinary car usage for the first, 2-3 years of ownership? Correct me if I'm wrong, Nissan, but the point is I was able to phone up the dealer who I bought the car from and say, look, I need to book a car for the coming weekend. And I think we used that facility twice over last summer. So for those longer journeys, and I think we did an occasional day out where it was slightly longer and we didn't want to stop and charge. We just took an ordinary car, and I think they were all Nissan Qashqais, perfectly acceptable internal combustion engine for in total 5 days where we needed longer journeys over that 6-month period. Wouldn't it be great if we all approached car ownership that way, rather than having one car that does everything? And I'll come on to contradict myself in a minute. Wouldn't it be great if we had drove electric cars for every day, cars that emit nothing, and then actually, when used, borrowed, hired a car for those occasional longer journeys? So that was the 6-month period when we had 2 Nissan Leafs, and then Bex, my Mk1 Leaf, went back in July 2015, July the 31st, and we took ownership of this. And I said earlier I work for IBM. I'm lucky enough to have a company car allowance. It's a cash allowance that I can either take as cash or I can use towards a free choice of vehicles, any make and model. Obviously I pay company car tax the same as any other company car driver. But the decision was made to go with this. And we've specified this on a 2-year lease. So from July 2015 to July 2017. And by the way, my personal lease is from March 2015 to March 2017. So what's the magic about 2017? Again, I'll come on to that. But both of this basically fits, I guess it's the best of both worlds. Let's cut to the chase on this Outlander. So this is a Outlander PHEV GX4h. There are 4 different models of Outlander. Look at my review on the Outlander if you want to know why this particular one, but this has the right specification of toys without being stupid or having stuff that you just turn off because it's annoying, which is the top of the range one. They now do the Footballer's Wife edition, the bling version of this that has the chrome kind of kick bars at the side of it and stupid spoiler or whatever on the roof. Get that if you want to, but you don't actually get anything extra. It's supposed to have an upgraded sound system, but the digital radio system inside this GX4h is fantastic. And there is now a facelift version of this come out, so they've actually got a slightly different grille on the front of it as well. So this is the GX4h. We've done 6,300 miles since July, which is actually the same mileage as I've done on the Leaf, which I've had for a slightly longer period of time. This car, in real world terms, does about, well, let's put it into practice. So I only occasionally drive this car because I drive the Leaf, and I prefer the Leaf to this car. The Nissan Leaf is a much better electric car compared to this. So Jo, my partner, she tends to drive this. She does a 32-mile round trip every day for 4 days a week. That's her commute to and from work. I'm just going to put the cruise control on here. And she can get within sort of 5 or 6 miles from home. And then it has to kick into hybrid operation. So about 90% of her driving, maybe 95%, is on pure electric, but for that last few miles to home it goes into hybrid, and that means that the engine kicks in to charge the battery, not drive the car, charge the battery so it can make it home. So she typically puts about, I think she said about £30 worth of petrol into this every 8 weeks. Now over the winter she's been using the heater a bit more, and I think she's putting that in, it's down to about every 4 or 5 weeks now, because this doesn't have the clever heating system of the Leaf. But this does have the flexibility. So we went to Euro Disney, and we had to drive up to Ebbsfleet from where we are on the south coast. Pretty much the first weekend we got this car, and we were able to drive it all the way up there, able to exhaust the electric range, and then go on to obviously its full hybrid mode. And then on the way back we did actually swing by, stop and grab something to eat and a coffee or whatever, charged it up for 20 minutes, and that then gave us another sort of 25 miles worth of electric on the return leg. But there have been, over the summer period, I'm going to take a swig of coffee in a minute, there have been some journeys where we haven't been able to plug in, and there was one particular wedding where we were able to plug in on the way up there, but we didn't stop on the way back, we wanted to get home. Again, that's the flexibility of this car. If you arrive at a charger and it's not working, or if there's a queue of 3 cars and you don't want to wait an hour, or if actually you just want to get home and you want to spend that £2 worth of fuel on that long journey, you can do, you've got those options. And we did drive, and I think it was about 120 miles to home from this wedding. Hang on a second. As with all my videos, these are one-take wonders, unscripted, unrehearsed, warts and all, so apologies for the coughing, slurps of drinks and everything else. So we drove that journey. The car was completely depleted of its electrical charge when we started off, so it was complete hybrid operation, and I think we got about 40 mpg on that return leg. Now, some of you diesel drivers are saying 40 mpg, that's rubbish for an electric car, but that was purely with no electrical charge, just driving home. Now, on a combined journey, so if I did 100 miles starting with a full battery and a full tank of fuel, this thing will do 60, 70 miles to the gallon, because it's had that combined electric and petrol range. The official figures for this are somewhere like 150 mpg, but it depends on your journey. So for Joe's journey to work, the 32-mile round trip, 90% electric, it'll be getting something like 200 mpg. So I take those figures with a bucket of salt. Let me try and put some meat around the comment that I prefer the Leaf. This car is a great all-rounder. It's a jack of all trades. Joe loves driving it. To me, I call it a bit of a Chelsea tractor. It's a huge 2-ton 4x4 that we don't need anything this big. There is massive space in the back apparently when I'm taking family out, or we've been picking up kids and doing the general stuff you need to do in a 5-seater car. There is stacks of room. It's a comfortable car. There's huge room in the boot. We've easily got an entire oak sideboard in the boot of this car, and it fits all of those needs. And you can tow with it, and I'll come on to that in a moment. So this does all of that very well. What it doesn't do very well is anything in particular. So, real example, if you're in a 100% electric car like the Nissan LEAF or the BMW i3, then you can put your foot down and it moves. It's a quick accelerating, fast car. They're great to drive, and I've said it before in my video blogs that traffic light Grand Prix, when you can pretty much beat anything off the lights because of all that torque and all the acceleration, you don't get that in this car. First of all, it's a 2-ton cruiser. Second of all, when you put your foot down in this car, if you're accelerating up a slip road or trying to overtake, as soon as you go past the green eco range, then basically the engine kicks in, and I don't know if you can hear it. I will slow down now because I'm on a piece of road which has no cars behind me, and I'm going to put my foot down and you will hear what happens. It's just not pleasant. So I sunk my foot to the floor, there is a lag, the electric engine starts to kick in, it realises it can't cope with the amount of power demand, and then all of a sudden the petrol engine will kick in, flares up and makes a huge amount of noise. Look back at my original video in 2012 about the unleashing of 10 hairdryers. It sounds like that. It's unresponsive, it's not fun to drive. So it's jack of all trades. It's a great all-rounder, but it's not, you can't force it to be 100% EV. As soon as you put your foot down too much, the engine kicks in. If you overtake, the engine kicks in. If you put the heater on, the engine kicks in. So you can't say just be 100% electric. And I don't like that, because I want to, as with all plug-in hybrids or cars that are a mixture of electric and petrol engines or diesel engines, what tends to happen is you obsess over the electric range. You want to get as much as you can on the electric motor before burning that expensive, dirty fossil fuel. So, but with that, you also get the flexibility of long ranges. You don't have to worry about charging infrastructure. You don't have to build in 20-minute stops into your journey. Let me come on to that comment about the BMW i3 we passed earlier. I think given my free choice, I would have chosen the BMW i3 Rex instead of this car. The i3 Rex is a great car. It's and you may have seen my video blogs on that. It's a very fast car. It's great to drive. It looks a bit funky, so it's got some very odd styling. It's quite a thin car. The wheels are really thin on it as well, but you don't feel that when you're driving it. And the version I drove had an amazing sound system, and they do a Rex version which will do 150 miles. Now, it does 150 miles on a mixture of electric energy, which is about an 80-mile range, the i3 Rex, and then it has a petrol engine that kicks in, never to drive the wheels, only to charge the battery. So you are always driving using the electric motors, but you have the flexibility of a slightly longer range. Now, the i3, being a BMW, costs a lot more than this car, so kind of the reason why we got this car instead of the i3 Rex or even the Nissan LEAF is very much due to the current incentives and government pricing on electric and plug-in cars. So let's just do my little soapbox moment. We currently have now, since May 2015, a fully Tory government in the UK, and they are systematically dismantling any green technology or sustainable technology. They have cancelled wind farm grants, they have reduced the solar feed-in tariff, and they are currently reducing the they're throwing everything into one bucket for company car tax. So the net of it for me is I can drive privately a Nissan LEAF on a personal lease for less than £170 a month, and if I was to take it as a company car, then I pay the same company car tax on a Nissan LEAF 100% electric that emits no emissions as I do for this 2-ton part petrolly powered 4x4. That is the lunacy of having a Tory government that is not incentivising people to drive non-polluting cars. So this actually only costs me about £40 or £50 a month more than the old Nissan LEAF I had, which means that we have a much bigger car with a much greater range, far exceeding what we need, in the same tax bracket, which is stupid. And with a BMW i3 Rex, they're expensive, and when you spec up an i3 Rex to be the same level of spec with the same kind of toys, aircon, electric heated seats, sat-nav, colour cameras, you'll be paying something like 45,000. I did the price comparison. I would be paying £100 a month more for an i3 Rex than this car. And due to the way that the government has changed both company car tax as well as road tax, that does a couple of funny things. So it actually puts the vehicle excise duty, the road tax, you actually have to start paying that on a higher rate on the BMW i3 because it costs so much money. And we're also going through a period where there's just been some announcements. So every single electric car has had a £5,000 government grant since 2011. Regardless whether it's 100% electric or plug-in hybrid, this car, the Outlander PHEV, is now the best-selling electric car in the UK because of the company car tax rules. You could get in and drive this and never plug it in as a company car driver and still save, I think it's about £1,000 a year versus driving a BMW frugal diesel, because the company car tax incentives are so beneficial on this that even if you never plugged it in, it's a cheaper car to drive. It's just nuts. So for 2 years, this is gonna meet our needs. You know, it's got great loads of toys in it, but it's just things that frustrate me. The acceleration I touched on a moment ago. This has 2 methods of charging, the same as the Nissan. It has a 3.3 kilowatt charging J1772 socket. It also has a CHAdeMO, though it charges at a slightly different rate than the LEAF, but you can use the same sockets. But you cannot specify the 6.6 charger on this. So this morning, before I even jumped on this, Joe had gone and done a 5 mile round trip in this morning, collected one of the teenagers from one of their overnight parties. That had pretty much exhausted all the battery. So it had been plugged in at home, and it's now slowly charging at 3.3 kilowatts, which means in 3 hours time, it'll have its battery recharged. 3.5 hours, it'll be back up to 27 miles worth of range. By the way, this does about 27 miles on electric, on mixed condition driving. If you put the heating on, so if it's freezing and you want to defrost the car and you just put the window demist on this option, it will drop to 15 miles. So in the middle of winter, if you don't preheat it and you want to, de-ice the windscreen, this will do 15 miles electric. Okay, 27 mixed 15 cold. But you can't quickly charge this at home. So even though we've done some work at the front of the house, so we now have a driveway which can hold all of our cars in our family, and we do have two 7 kilowatt charging stations, one on the front of the house, one on a charging post on the drive, and then we've got the portable one inside the garage as well. So we do have the capability of charging 3 electric cars now at home, but all of those chargers could do a 7 kilowatt charge, but this is only able to do a 3.3 charge. It just means it's really slow. So when you plug it in at home, in the scenario I just outlined this morning, after an hour you've only got, what, 16 miles worth of range, whereas the Leaf has got 35, 36 miles of range in that same hour's worth of charging. Ballpark figures will adjust to vary to driving conditions. What else can I tell you about this? So I'm driving along right now. It's about 5 degrees outside. I've got the heated seats on. That's more than enough for me. I've actually just exhausted all of the battery, so it's going to go into hybrid mode now because I've been talking for what, 20 minutes. I think this is a good all-rounder. If you are looking to make that first jump into electric cars, if you're a one-car family and you really need to do more than that 100 miles occasionally, then this is a good all-rounder. This will probably allow you to do all of your commuting, all of those school pickups, all of your local journeys using 100% electric, with the backup of a longer range when you need it. And I said earlier this can tow, and my parents now have got this identical car. So they've been driving for years a very old 2003 Nissan X-Trail diesel, polluting beast of a car. It had done 120,000 miles. They've been all over Europe, hauled a caravan with it, but it was costing them 260 quid a year for road tax. They just had the MOT done it, and that had cost them 600 quid to get it through the MOT, just various things that go wrong with a car of that mileage. And they said, right, well, they're looking for a new X-Trail, and they were looking for something like £19,000. I said, well, if you're looking at that kind of figures, I'm pretty sure that you're going to be able to pick up one of these cars, which have been out now for a couple of years, and because they've been out for a couple of years, a number of company car drivers will be handing them back. You could probably pick up one of these. Now, long story short, I put some feelers out there to a few trade contacts. I also put a couple of adverts on some electric car forums, and hello to everyone on Speak EV, especially Eugene. And Eugene, a electric car enthusiast, if I can call you that, he has 3 electric cars, and he was looking to change one, and he had, bizarrely, the identical car, a metallic black PHEV GX4h with a tow bar that he'd been using for a year, but he was changing from that to something smaller, so he was getting the new plug-in Golf. So long story short, my parents have now bought that car. They are delighted with it. They haven't towed the caravan yet because they've only had it a couple of months, but they now religiously plug it in when they get home, and all of their local driving is done now using electric only. I think Dad said he topped it up with about 15-20 pounds worth of fuel, and that's it. That's all they've done in 2 months. So they've gone from big, polluting, nasty old diesel to something which is now pretty much electric driving all the way. And they have tried to rapid charge it. One rapid charger that was broken. Oh, it was broken, so they just carried on and used electric for that bit of the, bit of petrol for that bit of the journey. But this is right now the only car that can tow in terms of a plug-in hybrid. So it fits their needs ideally, and delighted to get them out of a dirty diesel. In the intervening 6 months since I've last done my video blog, there's been a whole load of exposés about Volkswagen and the software they had in their diesel cars to cheat emissions. There's plenty of comments out there. My only comment to add to that would be, we need to ban diesel cars as quickly as possible. I fully accept that everyone that's driving in a diesel, and I drove 4 different Volkswagen diesel cars, some were Seat, some were Volkswagen, Golf, Altea, EOS, thinking they were fairly efficient, environmentally friendly cars. So I was fooled with everyone else. So I fully accept that if you made that decision to buy that Volkswagen diesel and you're currently driving one, absolutely no gripe to bear with you whatsoever, because you made the right decision at the time. But they were lying, and diesel cars emit a whole load of nasty nitrates out the back of the exhaust, way beyond just the CO2, which is the only thing that is measured when they were taxing a car. So diesels are dirty. Lo and behold, if all our city centres, London now regularly breaks European guidelines on air quality because of all the diesel cars that are going around London. Paris is now banning them. we need to get ourselves off of diesel, either using petrol plug-in hybrids, or what we should see, and I will try and wrap this up to some kind of conclusion, by 2017 are those longer range electric cars. So the reason why this car is on a 2-year lease and our personal lease on the Nissan LEAF is on a 2-year lease, both expiring within 4 months of each other in 2017, and that's now next year because this is the 1st of January, is I think we're going to see, and all the noises I'm hearing is that we're going to see some 300-mile range electric cars. Almost certainly we're going to see a revamped new style Nissan LEAF looking far more like their mainstream cars with that enhanced range. We already have now this year a 30 kilowatt hour Nissan LEAF versus the 24 kilowatt hour I drive. So you've now got a real world driving range of, I think it's about 110 miles, whereas my LEAF will do about 85 miles. So there is an increase there, but you can imagine going from that kind of range up to a 300 mile on a single charge range. That's going to be a game changer. So there are going to be at least, let's say, half a dozen cars coming onto the market in 2017 with that 300 mile range. We're going to see Tesla finally with their Model 3, which is going to be their, as they've claimed it, their kind of £30,000 BMW 3 Series rivaling car. It's going to be that kind of price point, but it'll have a 300 mile range, and Tesla are doing amazing things with their Gigafactory and the manufacture of the batteries. So I think come 2017 we will have a different choice of cars. We won't be having to compromise on great big cars like this that only have a 30-mile electric range. We should have cars that are able to do, maybe cars like this that will have a range of, say, 100 miles on purely electric driving, but with the backup of a petrol generator, which will just, you know, allow you to carry on going where there is nowhere to charge it, or you don't have to stop. Having options is the point. This car was very much based, the electric side of it, on the Mitsubishi Outlander, which was that funny small car kind of just before the LEAF. There was 3 or 4 cars. There was a Peugeot Ion, a Citroen, what was it, a C0, and the Mitsubishi Outlander, all identical cars with different badges on the front. And they pretty much uplifted the battery and the charging technology out of that car and put it under this, under the boot floor. So it wasn't particularly new in terms of the technology, but you know, very crudely, it's made this the best-selling electric car because of its flexibility. Let's just circle back on some of the figures, by the way, because just before they broke up for a Christmas recess, the government announced some new figures, and bear with me if I get these wrong. Some adaptation on the plug-in grant. I said earlier that there is a £5,000 government grant on every electric vehicle. That's changing. I think it's changing from March 2016. And that means that if you are taking out a 100% electric car, like our Nissan LEAF, the government grant will drop from £5,000 to £4,500. Now, if you're taking out a plug-in hybrid electric car, and there are various bands or criteria around this, but let's just call it a plug-in electric car. So Mitsubishi PHEV Outlander, plug-in Golf, trying to think of some others, Audi e-tron, those now will get a £2,500 grant instead of a £5,000 grant, so this may impact the retail price. And if any of those cars cost more than £60,000, 60, then they won't get a grant at all. So cars like the BMW i8 or the Tesla Roadster will no longer get a government-funded grant towards their purchase price. And their rationale for that is that they want to make sure that these are cars that can be driven by everybody. And I wouldn't say I'd agree with the government position there, but there is some rationale that I can empathise with. That's a political way of putting it. That, yeah, maybe if you're buying a BMW i8 for £105,000, maybe you shouldn't be using that £5,000 worth of government money, and that could be better utilised incentivising a family to go from their runaround diesel to a Nissan LEAF or plug-in electric. So those changes are coming. There's also been some modifications on the grant you get for the charging station to be installed at home. That's now, I think, dropped to about 75% of the cost of the install, capped at £700. Basically means if you want a 7 kilowatt charging station installed at home, you'll need to pay about between £200 and £300, dependent upon who you instruct to install that. Still a good incentive and still worth getting, and great, because my parents were one of the last people to get the free charging station installed on the old scheme, and now they've got their electric car which they can utilise it. And as as I go along this road, finishing off this video, there's one of these sky blue Mitsubishi Outlander PHEVs going the other way. It's slightly different from driving a Nissan LEAF. I still go along driving my Nissan LEAF, and if I pass another Nissan LEAF driver, I wave like mad, because I still think if you've taken the decision to get a car like the LEAF, 100% electric car, then you've accepted the limitations of the range. You're prepared to actually drive a car that's gonna not pollute the world around you, and that kind of makes you a bit of a special person, if you like, or a special attitude at least, because you've decided to make that decision to go with those electric cars. You're a little select club. It's a bit like driving along and just waving at the I used to drive an old classic car, I used to drive other classic cars. I still do, and I still find them quirky, and I still love the LEAF. So I hope that's given some, as ever, unscripted, one take wonder. Some of the figures will be wrong in there, but I hope it helps and continues to help you who are considering electric cars with these video blogs. And I'm really glad that so many people have made the decision to go down the electric car driving route. The rationale I made on my very first video 3.5 years ago are as valid. I'm delighted to see some of those predictions have come true. These still cost 2p a mile to run, and even with the reductions in the cost of fuel and the price of petrol, which currently stands at 99p a litre, it's still 80 to 90% cheaper to drive an electric car than it is to drive that combustion engine. I now pay less per kilowatt. I think I pay 9.2p per kilowatt today on the 1st of January 2016. It's about a penny less than when I did that first video back in August 2012. So, and that cost is fixed right the way through until December this year. We're now in a little bit of small village congestion in the village of Westbourne, just over the border in West Sussex. So all of those calculations still stand. They're just a better technology, they're more reliable. I touched on it earlier in this video blog that the Mk1 Nissan LEAF, nothing went wrong with it. No moving parts to go wrong as such. There's no engine that needs servicing. And even on my 2-year PCP deal, I've only got to pay for one service, and then I give the car back. So one service, less than £100 for the first service, and that's the only cost. I don't anticipate I may have to replace a tyre if I wear out a tyre. I've taken mine on a 10,000 year per annum lease deal. It looks like I'm going to come in at about 8,000 miles for this year. Maybe or maybe not. I'll need to replace the front tyres. Like I said, I enjoy driving it off the traffic lights, so who knows. But the point is, compared to the scenario of the Nissan X-Trail of my parents that they've got rid of, you're not going to get hit with a £600 bill, because all of those moving parts on the out-of-date combustion engine, you know, cam belts and filters and oil and gearboxes and belts and all that stuff that gives up and wears out and costs a fortune on an outdated last century technology, just get rid of that. Go electric. And as I'm driving along here, just heading to home, I can hear, and hopefully you can hear, that the engine is kicking in now. I've exhausted the battery. We're using a little bit of plug-in energy. Sorry, I should say petrol energy to just charge the battery. And one other comment, by the way, on the interface, I do find it clunky on the Outlander. This does have digital audio radio here in the UK, whereas the LEAF current gen doesn't. But it's not that intuitive. I know where the setting is on the LEAF to look at how much energy I'm currently using or what the battery range is. On here, to try and jump in and get that phone to sync to this car on Bluetooth, it's hidden, I think, under info, under pairing, or it might be under settings, under pairing. It's not that well designed. It's much better on the LEAF. The i3 had its oddity. Well, I think once you got used to the i3 navigation system and the funny wheel, it was a bit better, but I actually prefer the LEAF just for it's a bit Apple-esque, I guess. I'm so used to Apple kit that it's quite easy, although everything's touchscreen and intuitive. Heck, my son, now 8, has been able to operate the Nissan LEAF's, you know, radios and everything on the touchscreen since he jumped into it, aged 3.5, 4, whatever. Anyway, how long have I been prattling on for? 34 minutes. There's an update. Oh, I didn't even say, why have I not been updating? Why have I not really been doing much video blogging recently? Because I've started a little business. I actually now, as of the 10th of December, run the Emsworth Brew House. I've actually been a home brewer for the past year, and come the summer of 2015 I started taking a few bottles round to various sort of homebrew meets and local publicans and the like, and one local publican here in Emsworth where I live liked it so much that he said, I want to put that on the bar. And that, from that moment, it's taken quite a bit of energy, spare time, a few £1,000 to expand the kit, go through all of the red tape and everything that's required to sell beer. So long story short, I now have a tiny nano real ale craft brewery from my garage at the front of the house, and in a great kind of sustainability slant to that, it's all electric. So on a sunny day, the 4 kilowatt solar system on top of the house, as well as the solar thermal system on top of the house, that heats the water, which is then used to make the beer. And also obviously that same solar energy charges the 2 electric cars we have that are able to deliver the beer. So hence the tagline, handcrafted ale, sustainably brewed. So we're able to use, you know, not only driven by sunshine but brewed by sunshine as well. So quick mention, theemsworthbrewhouse.co.uk. right now goes through to a Facebook page. Literally, it's not even a month old, it's only 3 weeks old, but you can buy bottled real ale as well as on one pub you can buy our ale down in Emsworth. So that's why I've been a bit busy, so apologies for the delay. I hope that's been of some use. I hope that's given you some insight. Feel free to ask some questions, comments if there's some comparisons you want me to make between the 2 cars. This uses a lot more electricity to move the thing than it does on the Leaf, but you know, you'd expect that, it weighs that much more. Anyway, keep in touch. Keep the comments coming. Thank you for the nearly 600 subscribers on the YouTube channel now. I think the video I did on this, on the Outlander a year ago, what did that get, 20-30,000 views? Hopefully this has given you a bit of a follow-up. It's a great car, it's a great all-rounder. If you're a 1-car family and you can afford this, make the decision, make the leap. Your fuel cost will be cut to zero, not zero, but near zero. You won't feel the pain of filling up at the pump. No road tax, no congestion charge. Great for driving into London, which we did a couple of weeks ago, and loads of places to plug in and charge. This is a great all-rounder. If you can, I would still say go for the Nissan LEAF. It's a faster, more fun car to drive. It's got 5 seats, more than enough usable space in it, and it gives out 0 emissions. But keep watching the channel. I will come back and provide an update after a few more 1,000 miles. If you can, and you are a 2-car family, absolutely make one of them a LEAF. If you're able to do like I am with a company car, at least able to take advantage of this, I think we've probably got the best situation right now, which is Outlander PHEV. Joe drives it, loves driving it, loves the drive position, loves the very good headlight system on this, and then I drive the LEAF, which is great for all of my kind of journeys. Anyway, grantthomas.com is the website. On YouTube, hit the subscribe button, and on Twitter it's @GrantAThomas. Thanks for watching.